On today's Star Wars Legends lore video, we discuss planetary defenses. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Legends lore episode. A couple of days ago, I talked about planetary shields, and you guys really seemed to enjoy that topic. Today, we'll be covering the other elements of a planetary defense. As a quick note, if you guys want to see these things in action, I will be playing some Empire at War tonight, specifically the Thrawn's Revenge mod. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed to the main channel with notifications on, or else you might not know when I go live. So let's start our discussion with the orbital aspects of a planetary defense. Besides for having a traditional defense fleet, there are many things that a planet can do to remain self-sufficient and to protect itself. Orbiting defensive space stations are very common in the Star Wars universe. Probably the most common model is the Golan Defense Platform. There are several variants of this project, ranging from the Golan 1 all the way up to the Golan 8, which appeared in the Legacy era, but they all have a few things in common. They possess a lot of firepower with turbo lasers and laser cannons. They're very sturdy and shielded, and they will typically have starfighter squadrons available for defensive purposes. Golan Defense Platforms are very important assets, and most can even stand up to capital ships in a one-on-one fight. However, the Golan line is not the only option for a planetary defense station. Covering all of them would be an entire video. However, the XQ line is fairly prominent, and we often see things like weaponized skyhooks, like Prince Shizor has in Shadows of the Empire. Some defensive stations are more limited in scope with a singular purpose, for example as a hangar for fighters or a repair station for orbiting ships, but they all sort of count as orbital infrastructure. More rarely, we have what's known as a defensive grid. The CIS had a laser web defense station over the planet Iago, and we've also heard of ion grids, which operate in a similar way. Sometimes factions will also use asteroids or other projectiles as weapons by strapping thrusters onto them, but this is quite rare in the modern Star Wars eras. Let's move now to ground-based weapons, and I'm going to split this section up into two different categories: conventional weapons and ground-to-orbit weapons. Let's start with ground-to-orbit, and this includes things like the ion cannon that we see in The Empire Strikes Back. Really, these are ground-based weapons meant to take ships out in orbit. Typically, they are very powerful with incredibly high power consumption rates. We have, for example, the V-150 Planet Defender, which is an ion cannon, the W-165 Planetary Turbo Laser, which is capable of vaporizing a Star Destroyer, the M68 Planetary Magnapulse Cannon, and a variety of others. It should be noted that while these weapons are typically stationed on the defended planet itself, due to the high energy requirements and the fact that if you have a planetary shield, you probably want to protect them, there's nothing stopping a faction from placing them on an orbiting moon or even a space station. The weakness of these weapons is the fact that they cost a lot, they have a limited coverage area, which is important if you want to defend an entire planet, not just a small portion, and to fire the weapon, you need to lower any planetary shielding. As I mentioned, there are a variety of these sort of planetary defender style cannons, and you can have both energy variants like the ones I mentioned, or projectile variants like the hypervelocity cannon. During the Old Republic days, Alderaan had such a sophisticated ground-based cannon that the faction that controlled that could likely hold the planet itself. Alongside surface-to-orbit cannons, we also have traditional surface-to-air and surface-to-surface weapons. I'm talking about anti-aircraft emplacements, turbo lasers, things like that. These won't be super important if the attacking force is still in orbit, but if they invade the planet itself, they could be the cornerstone to a good defense. This is alongside traditional military forces like soldiers, droids, vehicles, etc. The weapons that I've discussed so far make up the bulk of planetary defenses across the galaxy, but there are a few other things that I'd like to mention. First of all, gravity well generators and interdiction technology can be used in various ways. Hyperspace lanes can be blocked, ships can be pulled out into a well-defended area, etc., etc. Stellar anomalies or cosmic events can also play an important part in a planet's defense. For example, the numerous black holes of the Maw cluster were used to protect the Maw installation. Another example would be the planet Nikon, which orbited very close to a large star. The radiation made it very difficult for non-specially designed ships to approach without suffering significant damage. And that's the basics of planetary defense. Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions? Do you have an idea for a future video? Make sure to let me know down in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the Force be with you.